Hi, I'm Dave Northey from Microsoft in Ireland, and I'm going to spend the next 10 minutes explaining to you how to install and configure Hyper-V on Windows Server 2008 R2. So to start with, we install Windows Server 2008 R2 and either enable the Hyper-V role during the out-of-box experience or wait until we get into Server Manager and run through the Add Roles wizard. So to add the Hyper-V role, we go into the Add Roles wizard, we tick this box, press Next, and it will guide us through the installation of Hyper-V. You can configure your virtual network now. I don't normally bother. I'd wait until I've got everything up and running and I know which network I want to give to what resource, but you can choose to do it there if you wish. Press Next and you're off to the installation part of Hyper-V. Now, Hyper-V is just a hypervisor that runs underneath Windows Server. So let me spend a minute or two explaining to you the architecture of Hyper-V. So when I install Windows Server onto a physical machine, the operating system itself runs at ring 0 on the processor. When I enable the Hyper-V role, the hypervisor itself actually runs at ring -1 on the processor, and all partitions continue to run at ring 0, i.e. on the tin. When I create virtual machines, so child partitions, they also run at ring 0 on the tin, whether they be hypervisor aware partitions or not, including lots of Linux distributions that we fully support. So onwards and upwards, so I've enabled the Hyper-V role, the server will reboot, and after I log on, I'll be taken through into Server Manager for it to continue the installation of the Hyper-V role. This just takes a second or two, but it's just basically confirming that what was the installation of Windows is now running as a virtual machine, and all the device drivers have been enabled over the VM bus. So that's Hyper-V installed and configured. The next step is to go in and make a few configuration options. So you can configure Hyper-V from within Server Manager. Most people don't. They would choose to download the remote server administration tools onto their desktop, fire them up, connect to the virtual machine, to the hypervisor machines, and manage them from there. So this is Hyper-V Manager, and you'll connect to the server or servers that you wish to manage. So the first thing you want to do is get some networking created. So if you go into the Virtual Network Manager within Hyper-V Manager, you want to create an external network for your virtual machines to be able to get out onto the network. So I'm going to create a new one here, and I'm going to tell it which network card I want it to go out onto. So my Intel Gigabit Network Controller, call it Demo, and you'll see where this becomes useful in a while. You'll see that I also support VLANs if need be. It's warning me there that I'm going to lose network connectivity, which I did, so I've reconnected, and now I'm going to create a virtual machine. So wizard driven, very easy. Follow along, do this. It's worth, what I'm actually doing is creating a template that we're going to use later on. So I'll call this one Demo. I'll press Next. I'll give it some memory, give it a gig, so the installation will run a bit quicker. Connect it to my external network that I've just created because I want to get updates and things. I'll just take the defaults for the hard drive. That's fine. We're going to mess with that in a while. And I'm going to install Windows Server 2008 R2 onto this. So I have the ISO of Windows on a local disk. I logically put the ISO into the DVD drive, press Finish, and that's my virtual machine created. Once it is created, I can connect to it and start it up and plod through the installation process of Windows Server. So this is me connecting, this is me starting. So my intention isn't to teach you how to install Windows, it's to show you how to create a template machine from which you can create all subsequent virtual machines. This is obviously one of the big benefits of virtualization in the first place. So I do start this machine, it loads up Windows PE, and then from within Windows PE it starts the setup process. You just need to take defaults for pretty much everything during this setup because I can make the changes after the event, after I've run sysprep. Pick the version of Windows you're creating a template for. So in this instance, 2008 R2 Standard Edition, full install, accept the license. There is no upgrade process, but I'll just make sure it's installing onto the blank VHD that we just created. And then Windows setup starts and starts installing Windows onto this virtual machine. So far I've guided you through the basic installation process of Windows Server 2008 R2 and enabled Hyper-V. I've explained that Hyper-V is a skinny little hypervisor that runs underneath Windows Server, which enables every subsequent virtual machine, including the parent partition, to run on the tin at ring 0 like it always used to, which actually means Windows Server Hyper-V is one of the most performant virtualization platforms out there. We run all our virtual machines on ring 0, unlike some of our competitors. Lots of third-party tests out there to demonstrate that we're the most performant, especially for running Windows workloads. So anyway, there's my virtual machine installed. The first thing you have to do, as you know, after you've finished installing Windows, is give it a default password. You can guess that, PASSWORD. It actually doesn't matter for now. I'm going to change it later on. Once Windows installs and you've logged onto it the first time, the out-of-box experience starts, which in this instance you can just ignore and close it down because we don't really care. But if for subsequent installs of Windows, you should plod through this from the top to the bottom to get your Windows servers installed correctly. Most errors on Windows servers are configuration errors. The whole purpose of wizards is to stop you having configuration errors. So we'll just ignore this for now. And after you've closed down the out-of-box experience, which you can start by typing OOBE, Server Manager starts. And again, for this process, we don't need this. But again, Server Manager is a really useful tool to help you configure and manage Windows servers. So next thing I want to do is run sysprep. Sysprep resides in Windows System 32 sysprep folder. I'm just going to run sysprep itself. And sysprep is the tool that takes out all the unique things about a Windows server. So I want to generalize. So I'm going to go to the out-of-box experience on the reboot. I'm going to generalize it to make it unique again, to put new SIDs in, and I'm going to shut it down as soon as I finish running sysprep. So I press next. Windows runs sysprep, and I've speeded this up again. It takes a minute or two to run sysprep. And once sysprep's finished, the Windows server will shut itself down because I told it to. And then I end up with a virtual machine that's been sysprepped. So I can happily close that down now. What I'm going to do now is go find the virtual hard disk file. So the default location for virtual hard disk, unless you change it, is down here. And there's the virtual hard disk. So I'm going to copy that and put it somewhere a bit more useful. So on my disk I've created a folder called VHDs, and I'm going to put it there. Now that's a sysprepped virtual machine. So the first thing I'm going to do to it is go into it and rename it, and I'll call it Windows Server 2008 R2 Standard Edition, and I'm also going to mark it as read-only. I don't want someone changing that. This is my starting point for all subsequent virtual machines. So to create a new virtual machine from that, I copy it and paste it wherever I'm going to create my virtual machine from. Let's put it here for now. And again, I speeded that up. My laptop's not that quick. And I'll give this a name. So I'm going to create a virtual machine called Test, or Test2. I'll just give this the name Test. Call it Test. So from that, I'm now going to create a virtual machine, exactly the same as we did before, but rather than taking a default virtual hard disk, I'm going to point it at that one. So let's call this Test. Give it some memory. Connect it to a network. And put this virtual hard disk that we've created in. So this has already been sysprepped. Once it starts, it just runs the mini setup and I'm done. Now ideally you would have added all the updates and stuff during this, before the sysprep process, but such is life. So now when I start this virtual machine, it's just going to guide me through the mini setup. So it's this part. So I give it what language I want. Put a product key in, and that's pretty much it really. After I've done that, it'll go off and configure itself correctly. Again, I've speeded this up just to save us watching paint dry. And then once that machine's done, all subsequent machines are as quick as that. So that's my installation and configuration and best practice tip for doing templates. I'll do more at a later date, but hopefully you enjoy Hyper-V on Windows Server 2008 R2.